Hello, everyone, and welcome to my den. It's your favorite cyber new type, Jared the Greek, here with my review and discussion of Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, Episode 1. Yeah, it's finally out, people. I'm super hyped. As always, there will be no spoilers in the beginning section, and I'll let you know when I get into the spoiler part. So let's talk briefly about the story. We follow Suletta Mercury as she rescues someone who's adrift in space, kind of showing a nice little heroic moment for our hero. And after that, we get transferred over to the school, where there's a little bit of shenanigans and misunderstanding. We learn a little bit more about Suletta, how she hasn't actually been to school. She has a lot of social anxiety and doesn't quite know how to interact with the new people she keeps running into. We then also notice that Utena is actually in the middle of a duel with someone. So apparently they do let people just battle on campus, because why not? And he ends up defeating his opponent and nearly crushing Suletta in the process. So, it's super safe. We also get to see a little bit of Miorin Rembrandt as she is cultivating her little garden, and a little bit of drama happens with Utena. And then we get a cool duel, this time, a more fleshed out duel at the end to really set the stage for what's going to be happening in the later episodes of the series. As for characters, we have three main characters who actually get any kind of development. Suletta Mercury is, of course, our lead. She was Eri Asamaya from the original prologue story, and now a bit more grown up. She is very nervous, a bit twitchy, a bit unprepared for social situations, but is also a really talented mech pilot. Obviously, she's the main character. She better be a talented mech pilot. There's a lot of directions for her character to go, and while she did come off a little bit annoying to me, I realized that there's plenty of protags who began kind of bad and then were able to evolve into something awesome. So hopefully that's the path we're seeing for Suletta, and we're not going to see her getting all nervous and twitchy and stuff, by episode 15 or something, because that's just going to get a little bit annoying. Our second character we need to talk about is, of course, Miorin Rembrandt, a character I thought was going to be an antagonist, turns out to be kind of an unlikely friend. So we'll definitely have to see where that goes. She seems to be a strange mix of like the typical Ojo-sama princess, very standoffish and within her own little world of her status and her power and what have you. But then she also has a softer side when we see her gardening and we see her very slowly warming up to Suletta. We definitely have a bit of a tsundere personality here, and it'll be interesting to see where this goes and how she interacts with some of the other students at the academy. Finally, we have our third character, Utena, who is such a chauvinistic jerk that I think Gaston would say, dude, tone it down a bit. He's almost a comical level of jerk in this, where of course he has the popularity on campus. Of course he's super rich and can do whatever he wants without consequence. He treats everyone like they're lower than him, especially Mirin, who he treats almost like property, and of course doesn't even think twice about Suletta because she's a newbie and who cares about her. And you do want to see him get his comeuppance, but it's really strange that he's such a comical version. He is the joke version of what you would do if you wanted the jerk bully guy on campus, and he really comes off like that, almost like a Saved by the Bell character or a Revenge of the Nerds character. Just such an over-the-top stereotype that you're like, what? He's definitely a weakness of the show for sure. Not because I don't like the character. He's fine as an antagonist. He's just, usually our antagonists in Gundam have a little bit of something we call nuance and subtlety, and he has none of it. He is just, I am buff rich guy. I do whatever I want, bruh. I'm the Chad of the Chads, bruh, and there's nothing you can do about it, bruh. So don't get in my way, bruh, because I'll mess you up, bruh. And that's basically his personality, and I'm like, okay, he either needs some character growth, or he needs a personality or something, because right now it's just like, come on. And I'm not saying Gundam hasn't had their overly aggro jerk guys before. We have had them before, but usually they're not this comical and silly. Even Yazan had some nuance to him, for God's sake. Aesthetically, this kicks it up a notch from Prologue. While I thought Prologue was pretty well done with the mix of animation styles, this one kicks it up a notch. I had no problems with how the Gundams looked. I had no problems with any of the backgrounds, anything. It really blended beautifully. You can tell they put a lot of effort into making this the best it could look. And it really is looking wonderful. Especially the mech battles. Oh my gosh, the mech battles look so good. They're so kinetic. There's so much energy. There's so much just intensity in the fights. And these are battles where they're using limited types of weaponry and what have you, because they're student battles and they're not supposed to be going, all out against each other with high-powered weapons and blowing each other up. But if you're seeing this in essentially the test fights, oh my gosh, what's the real war gonna look like? I know we shouldn't get super hype about like, ooh, robot fights, but let's face it, part of what makes Gundam fun is robot fights. And we're getting some good ones here. Hopefully, if the first episode is an indication, we're gonna get some really awesome robot fights. And I am very hyped for that, as you can tell. The music has also been improved. We get some great themes, especially the part in the beginning where Suletta is exploring the campus, has a great song without any dialogue. It's just her exploring and being kind of in wonder and awe of everything around her. And then the battle music had this epic, like operatic theme that really got your blood pumping and made the battle that much more intense and exciting. I'm not gonna make real comments about the opening or end themes just yet. This didn't even have the opening sequence. I wanna wait for both opening and ending sequences to be in their final forms before I make comment about them in one of these reviews. On the mecha side of things, we saw the Gundam Ariel, which we already knew was going to be Soletta's main unit, and we saw Guel's Danza in battle a couple of times, alongside a few of the trainer units in the background and some other stuff that really wasn't of note. So we do get to see a few of the robots, and I generally like the designs. I liked the Danza design from when I first saw it. I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool looking machine. So getting to see it in action was pretty nice as well. Overall, it took me a little while to warm up to it because what I wanted was more of an espionage thriller. I wanted Suletta to have a lot more agency and tenacity. And instead, we're getting her like a super nervous person who got thrown into a situation they are really not prepared for. That's fine for now. I need to really see where she grows as a character. And because of that, my first viewing, I was like, I'm not sure if I like this or not. And on second viewing, when I let go of some of those expectations I had, I was able to enjoy it for what it is. And even though it is essentially Utena in space, but the difference is Mirin is a lot more feisty than Anthe ever was. Anthe just kind of accepts her fate, while Mirin is definitely more like wants to throw down if she has the opportunity. And while Utena was trying to be, the prince and the hero, it feels like Suletta is just trying to learn how to human. So there's definitely some differences there in terms of at least our Anthe Utena type dynamic, but we still have the problem of feeling a little contrived and a little bit like I've seen this before. I'm not saying I hated it. Quite to the contrary, I actually quite enjoyed it. I just need to see where things go before I can really make a proper determination of how I feel about the series in general. All right, let's get into a few spoilers here before I wrap up. First off, the battle with Guel and Suletta is really, really good, as I said before. It brought up some interesting questions, because as they're battling, Suletta starts using the Gund bits that are attached to the Ariel. And one of the other students who isn't paying attention at first and then realizes what the robot is and goes, that's a Gundam. Gundams are illegal. The fact that she brought a Gundam to this school is kind of like, why would you do that? These machines are illegal. Someone's going to notice. So someone has noticed, which really makes me wonder what that's going to lead to in terms of the story, because having a character know that's a Gundam means they could essentially call the police or something like that against Suletta, or maybe they could be in support of Suletta. We don't really know just yet, which is nice. It adds a little mystery, a little bit of a, hey, we're going to pay this off soon. So I do appreciate that. I like the fact that someone amongst all the students is like, that's a Gundam. Those are illegal. So we'll see where that goes. In addition to that, I admit I was completely off with Mirin and the type of personality and position she'd have in the show. But seeing the weird contrivancy of like, oh, just whoever wins the duels and has the top rank gets to be my husband is really kind of dumb. It is. It's just completely dumb. Because in the world of Utena, it's such a unique world wherein you're like, okay, fine, the Rose Bride. But with this, you're an advanced society. You have space colonies and stuff. School on the moon. Are you telling me we're still some weird archaic tradition of let's have a joust, the winner gets my daughter? I don't know, it just feels a little weird to me. I do like the fact that Mirin is very much in that mentality of like, married to a man, married to a woman, whatever. Yes, I do appreciate that kind of feeling. I like the bisexual vibes there we get off of Mirin. It's pretty cool. Especially considering the fact that most of our Gundam characters have had to be subtlety or subtext. With one notable exception, they've all kind of been kind of hidden below the radar kind of stuff. To have someone just outright admit it is kind of nice and refreshing. It shows that Gundam, in its own way, is growing up. Oh, yay. Other than that, I don't know if there's a whole lot I can really spoil here. I mean, we do get a whole political story where they're trying to assassinate Delling Rembrandt so that his daughter marries Jetrik's son and so that they can take over his company. So there is a little bit of that playing out. This is obviously going to play into something, and I wouldn't be surprised if all the kind of dynamics between all the parents and their mega corporations is going to be what leads to the war, and probably what leads to the students pulling probably some pretty mean attacks against each other or messing with each other in certain ways in order to further their parents' schemes. Hopefully that'll lead to something very soon so we can get a real plot going and not just Gundam the CW edition. I think that covers all I can really talk about right now. I mean, there's some characters, who are there in the background. A couple of times you hear their names or what have you, but for the most part, they didn't really do a lot. So I'm wondering about how all those other characters are going to play out and how many characters we're going to have as our main cast when we really start to narrow things down. Or if we're going to go more of an Iron-Blooded Orphans direction, where we take a couple episodes here and there to really just focus on specific characters as we go through the main story. Personally, I'm glad I watched this twice. I ended up watching Prologue 3 times, and I will likely watch every episode of the series at least twice before running my review, because I really like having that time to kind of process it, think about it, and be able to be more open with my ideas and thoughts instead of having that initial gut reaction, which, again, if I'd gone with my initial gut reaction, I'd been like, ugh, it's CW and it's Gundam mixed and enjoy. And I'm glad that I was able to give it a second view and go, you know what? There is potential here. There are some story beats here that are hinting at. This is just getting to meet the initial characters, and we have so much more to explore. We haven't met any of the teachers. We haven't seen what the classes are like. We have a bunch of characters who I don't even know what their names are, but they look like they're going to be important in one way or another. So we definitely have some things building up in the background, and I am excited about that. As I said before, I do recommend this series thus far, and if you haven't watched it yet and you've just had the whole episode spoiled for you, go and give it a watch. It's on Crunchyroll. It's kind of paywalled right now, but there is a free trial thing. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to wait a while before it gets put into the free tier on Crunchyroll or maybe Gundam Info on YouTube. Hope you've had fun watching it. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this first episode. How excited are you about seeing what's coming up next? And who's your favorite character thus far? Also, if you have the chance, please like and subscribe. We're going to be doing an episode of this for every single episode of Witch from Mercury. And I'm going to start trying to get in some more mecha reviews. And I promise you, Gundam history is making a comeback. So until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the tavern.